Hello, Larson Halleck here, and boy do I really hate repeating myself over and over again. But I have to because apparently having to debunk Durr, Chinks can't fight is a full-time job. So much like the Asian sex bullshit, I am now going to make a single video addressing this issue so I never have to do so again. Because, as I've repeatedly stated, these two issues are really the same issue, and it is the only issue facing Asian people in 2022. All of the actual issues of discrimination and colonialism are solved by this point, so this is what's left. What is the problem, put succinctly? Asian men are stereotyped as pathetic, dorky, effeminate faggots who have no sexuality at all, and Asian women, in contrast, are stereotyped as overly sexualized, exotic, submissive trophies for white men to conquer. I don't care if I've used this clip over and over again. That's what I designed it to do. That clip still summarizes all Asian problems better than anything anybody else has ever said, ever. What inspired this particular video was some blithering dipshit named Edward Luttwak, who wrote an article titled The Myth of Chinese Supremacy. And what methods did he use to debunk this myth? Did he analyze the current state of the Chinese government? No. Did he analyze the economy? No. Did he analyze American military presence in the Pacific Rim? No. Instead, his entire analysis relied on the same old hyuk hyuk, Chinks can't fight stereotypes that could have been printed in some superhero comic from the 1930s. Boy, you know, it's really useful and really informative to reduce 5,000 years of history to derp. Every 5 seconds, the Chinese got their asses kicked as they pranced around in their gay little robes quoting philosophers. I'm very intelligent. Durr. Some of you might be wondering why I'm defending mainland China. I'm not. I'm defending Chinese people and traditional Chinese culture, the culture that the communist scum destroyed, the culture that currently resides in Taiwan, Hong Kong, and the rest of the Chinese diaspora. Deal with it, Reds. Before we get to the repeated examples of this stereotype being used and repeated instances of Westerners utterly failing to learn this lesson, let's address a few things about Chinese history. Two things in particular. First of all, let's deal with this extremely ubiquitous perception of China got conquered by steppe barbarians sometimes. That means they're a race of timid little sissies, a hyuk hyuk. Okay, let's review. Did this happen on occasion? Yes, there are 4 times this happened. 4 conquest dynasties. I will certainly not deny that. But do bear in mind that 2 of those 4 could only do half the job and the other 2 did the whole thing. Need I remind you that I can point to several European countries that also have the comparable or even more numbers of conquest dynasties. Spain and Portugal, to cite a couple of examples. But for some inexplicable reason, nobody would ever dare say that, say, Spanish people are a race of born slaves put on this earth to get bent over and raped by their superior conquerors. I mean, that would be wrong in a historical sense, and that would be wrong in a moral sense. That would be extremely bigoted. But it's totally cool to say that about Chinese people and get published in a national forum. Oh look, Britain has been conquered 3 times in the past. Well gee, I guess they're a race of effete candy asses too. Look how intelligent I am. I did a historical analysis. Looking at the Yuan to Ming transition, the transition from a Mongol rule to a Han rule, the Mongols were kicked out, the Ming dynasty conquered Mongolia in retaliation, and that same dynasty, as well as some previous dynasties, also ruled Manchuria and deep into Central Asia. And then the Ming weakened and became decadent over the next 300 years, and they were eventually conquered by Manchuria centuries later. Okay, cool. You know what I call that? I call that history. I mean, what do you call it when China conquers steppe barbarians? Oh, there's dead silence when that happens. A hyuk hyuk. Chinamen got conquered, so they're a race of servant faggots. A hyuk hyuk. But when the reverse happens, oh, nobody has a goddamn word to say. I mean, if you want to be technical, the Ming ruled Mongolia much longer than the reverse. If we consider the Mongol conquest to finally be over, the last defeat of the Southern Song in 1271. The Yuan only lasted 1271 to 1368. That's less than 100 years. The Ming punitive expeditions started in the 1370s. They were concluded really around the 1420s, I believe, and they lasted until 1644 when the dynasty itself fell. Gee, which is longer? You've already established that in your idiotic interpretation of history, China losing to the steppe barbarians sometimes, well, that automatically means that Chinese people are effeminate little catamites who exist to take it up the corn chute from their superiors. But then the Chinese sometimes conquer the steppe cultures. So, what does that mean? Are the steppe nomads suddenly effeminate little dweebs who exist to get conquered? Now, according to your dichotomy, that would be the case. I mean, the title of timid natural slaves is like playing tag. The last loser is it, and whoever loses last automatically becomes a timid little chode, right, you dumb fuck? Right? Or, you know, you can be an intelligent person and look at history objectively, and realize that no nation has an undefeated streak, and nations tend to win some and lose some. Oh, and by the way, since this retard is the last of a long line of people who seem to make this mistake, I would like to make this very clear. This is the second issue about Chinese history specifically I would like to convey before we get to the main topic. China won the Second Sino-Japanese War, just FYI. A lot of people seem to think otherwise. Did China suffer greater casualties? Very much so. 2 to 3 times as much, not counting civilians. Did much of the war consist of China desperately holding on and fighting to survive? And by that I mean the communists ran and hid like bitches, while the nationalists took all the casualties, basically? Yeah, that's also true. But that doesn't constitute losing. The only loser is the side that surrenders, and guess what? The Chinese government did not formally surrender. Holding some amount of territory does not constitute an occupation. The Soviet Union took vastly more casualties than the Germans, but nobody would dare say they lost. How are the situations any different? The 2 most populous countries on Earth largely won through sheer force of numbers and desperate skin-of-their-teeth victory and determination, while both being supplied by American Lend-Lease aid, and ultimately winning a victory. A Pyrrhic victory, yes, but a victory nonetheless. But somehow one faction is perceived to win, and the other faction is perceived to lose. Why? I'll tell you why. A lot of it is just genuine ignorance about China's role in World War II at all, but to some degree it is because Russians are perceived as men in the general Western imagination. Uncivilized, brutal men who wear funny hats and train bears to ride unicycles, but men nonetheless. In contrast, Chinese people, and let's be honest, Asian people on the whole, in the general Western imagination are perceived as women. China in the Western imagination is essentially a battered housewife that needs to be rescued from its abusive husband that is simultaneously also China. China must be rescued from itself, essentially. Did you ever notice how Chinese people, and let's extend that to Asian people in general, can be stereotyped as both effeminate, weakling nerds, but also simultaneously bloodthirsty savages who revel in brutality and violence? I mean, I don't understand how you can be both of those things at once, but here we are. From my perspective, it seems to be like a spectrum of stereotyping. You will automatically be perceived as the accented bowl-cut chode until the very second you start hitting the gym and making gains, learning how to fight, getting a proper haircut, or being masculine. Then overnight you suddenly become perceived as the mustachioed hatchet man. And for the record, I would much rather be perceived as a bloodthirsty hatchet or Tao-swinging lunatic than an effeminate bowl-cut-wearing geek 11 out of 10 times. And yeah, I'll be honest here, real talk. The situation for Asian people on the whole will become much better if we start leaning hard into the emotionless, inscrutable killer stereotype. Anyway, let's start discussing examples of Durr, yellow men can't fight. Now, we're addressing all Asian people on the whole here because this stereotype is remarkably persistent throughout the entire continent. It's not just perceived as a Chinese thing or a Japanese thing or whatever. This gets laid onto everybody. And just to make it clear, this is hardly just a stereotype that Americans have. I refuse to do the "her America bad" crap that we're all supposed to do nowadays. This is a persistent Western stereotype. Multiple countries have done it, and multiple countries have been tarred with the brush of effeminate weakness. Secondly, while it would be easy for me to just go, every single time the West fought the East, somebody said this, that's kind of hacky, that's not good enough. I mean, we could presumably assume that some guy in every army, private dumbfuck, said something like this. But to just go through the Wikipedia article on, Western colonialism or whatever, that would just be lazy hack work. Instead, I'm looking for specific examples of it from major players, whether it be a general saying it, a politician saying it, or a work of nationally published media, a newspaper article, a cartoon, something like that. It has to be a specific example seen by lots of people. And so, without further ado, number 1, the Battle of Peng Hu, 1624. The Dutch go in expecting timidity and weakness. After all, Chinamen are a timid and faint-hearted troop. Oh my god, we lost, how could this have happened? Number 2, the Battle of the Taku Forts, the Second Opium War, 1859. Well, we're gonna mop this one up easy, says John Bull, and whatever the male personification of France is. It wouldn't make sense to say Marianne, now would it? Anyway, yeah, we're gonna mop this one up easy. They're pathetic yellow men who they can't fight. Oh my god, they're artillery blasting us just as good as any European. I totally didn't expect that to happen. Number 3, the Sino-French War, 1885. We're gonna mop up Les Gens easy. Look at this cartoon in which they're running away like bitches. Oh my god, we lost the Battle of Bang Bo. Number 4, the Boxer Rebellion, 1901. We're gonna be like the Huns, says Kaiser Wilhelm. We'll make it so the yellow buck-toothed bastards will grovel, never look again cross-eyed at a German. Oh shit, they're fighting to the death. Oh shit, it takes multiple point-blank rifle rounds to put down these crazy bastards. Oh god. Number 5. The Russo-Japanese War, 1904. Well, the Japanese should be easy to fight, says Admiral Vodka Drunkinsky. They're a race of weaklings and effeminates. I read Madame Chrysanthemum. I know all about them. Oh god, we lost. Number 6. The beginning of the Second Sino-Japanese War, 1937. A war between China and Japan? Well, this should be a music hall farce. Both races are pathetic yellow men. They can't fight. I'm a very intelligent international observer. Look at these dumb Chinamen carrying their stupid little umbrellas around. Holy shit, the war's going on for 8 years and it's a horrifying bloodbath. Number 7. The Battle of Singapore, 1942. Well, we British have nothing to worry about from the Japs. They're a race of pathetic mole men who wear glasses and sandals and have buck teeth and eat fish. Oh crap, we lost. We outnumber them 3-1, and we lost. Number 8. The American island hopping campaign in World War II. Let's say 1942 to 1945. Well, gee, the British made the mistake of considering them stupid buck-toothed gremlins, but let's give that hypothesis another try, shall we? My god, this island hopping campaign is a traumatizing charnel pit. Number 9. The Korean War, 1950 to 1953. Well, we've learned absolutely nothing over the past 50 years. Gooks are still a bunch of dumbass buck-toothed gremlin cartoons, and oh my god, we got pushed back to the 38th parallel. Number 10. The Vietnam War. Durr, they're a bunch of buck-toothed yellow men jumping out of trees in pajamas and eating rats. Oh shit, we lost. And this dumb fuckery is still going on right now as we speak, from commentators looking at the possible war we'll be fighting with China in the future. The West has been militarily involved in Asia on and off since the 1600s. You've made this mistake 10 goddamn times as far as my research shows, and you still don't learn. It seems like time number 11 just might be around the corner. Bear in mind, these are not the only 10 times the West has fought the East. These are only the examples where I could find explicit examples of the Asian men they were fighting being depicted as pathetic, weak, incompetent, waddling chodes. I would be willing to wager there's more if I had access to national archives or whatever, but alas, a thorough dive into Wikipedia is all I can manage. Okay, this is the white half of me talking to other white people. Stop being fucking stupid and making this mistake. Stop being the dog returning to its vomit. Learn from the past, you blithering idiots. Yeah, look, I know there's a certain subset of fat, impotent old white men salivating at the thought of being the great white savior and saving the, Asian women from the evil, goblins, men. But belay those idiotic thoughts. For your own safety, so you don't take a bullet to the head. Belay those thoughts, please. If the US and China went to war, the US would probably win, I think. But are you willing to go to war with a nuclear power? Are we willing to suffer tens of millions of casualties to win a war that doesn't really need to be fought? And of course, the question nobody wants to ask. Is the American they-them transgender slay queen yes army capable of fighting? I don't want that war, and neither should you. So please, for the love of all that is holy, take Asia seriously. Once again, your life might depend on it very soon. I'm Larson Halleck, and I'm officially done talking about this crap. And now, a word from our sponsors. Hello, are you a fan of Larson Halleck and the Barbaric Gentleman? Of course you are, otherwise you wouldn't be watching. Would you like to help the channel grow? Here's how you can. You can go to patreon.com and pledge some money, joining the ranks of the illustrious heroes you'll find at the end of the video. You can also go to paypal.me/LarsonHalleck to give me some money, or you can follow me on social media, @LarsonHalleck on Twitter and Instagram. I don't use right-wing grifter sites like Gab and Parler because they suck. You can also buy my books. The links to do so are in the video description. And of course, please subscribe and spread the word. That name again is Larson Halleck, and I hope you enjoyed the video.